Alrighty, welcome back everybody to our latest live stream. I wasn't planning on doing a live stream tonight, but I decided let's do a little weather discussion because this will be an interesting live stream. I have like 25 to 30 different tabs open. Gonna give you a list breakdown on what to expect tomorrow in terms of severe weather. It's gonna most likely be a very active day, so I want to kind of give you a detailed breakdown on what we could expect going into tomorrow across areas like North Texas, Oklahoma, even Kansas. Kansas might see some snow, by the way, tomorrow, while areas in North Texas are seeing severe weather. So it's gonna be a wild day tomorrow, without a doubt. But let's get inverts to the nationwide weather, what's currently happening across the United States. So we have a couple of features that I want to point out to you. First off, over in the east, back closer to New England, we have a high pressure ridge currently built into areas near New England that obviously is keeping those areas dry for the time being. There is a trough that is really strengthening right now across areas like the Central Plains in western Kansas right now is where that trough is located. That will continue to move quickly off to the east, most likely posing a pretty substantial severe weather outbreak tomorrow across areas like Texas, Oklahoma, potentially western Arkansas, and as well as western and northwestern Louisiana. So this will be a day to watch for sure. All modes of severe weather will be possible. Damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, you name it. Basically every threat is going to be in play tomorrow. We do have a cold frontal boundary as well, extending all the way back up to the north. We are already beginning to see some showers back up in Wisconsin. There will be about a couple of days of rain back through those regions in the Midwest, as well as back through Iowa. So some good news there, obviously, for those that want some rain. There's plenty coming for you. All right, let's take a look at the entire United States in terms of just what to expect here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Again, the trough that I just mentioned will be moving into the southern plains. A lot of rain is going to be coming to areas back up in the Midwest, so beneficial rain if you need it back up that direction. Also, the Mississippi Valley going to see not just rain, but also the potential for some storm activity. Again, isolated severe weather not out of the question heading into late Friday night into Saturday morning. Eventually heading into Saturday morning, that trough will move up to the north, and by the way, this thing will fly off the map basically by Sunday morning. It's going to be a very quick moving trough, so it's going to basically be out of the United States no later than Sunday afternoon. We'll still see maybe some remnants of maybe some showers back up in New England, but this thing is going to fly by in the United States. It's not going to be that slow. It's going to be very quick without a doubt. Upper level winds are very strong, therefore we're probably going to see that potential that this thing will be quick moving. All right, we do have a severe weather potential for tonight. I'm not going to touch on this a whole lot. It's really going to be this overnight hours, so from about 2 a.m. upwards to about 8 to 9 a.m. It's going to really just be a carrying over threat into tomorrow morning. There is a slight risk of severe weather. It does include areas east of Lubbock and as well as Amarillo. Goes all the way back through western Oklahoma. Also goes into southern portions of Kansas. A marginal threat does extend as far north as southwest Iowa, but other than that, again, damaging winds my main concern. Maybe a little bit of large hail. I can't rule out a brief tornado with those storms, but again, that threat will primarily be after 2 a.m. tonight. And this is a look at the future radar. Overall, again, 4 or 5 a.m. we'll have a few showers and storms. Nothing crazy. What I want to point out to you, though, is something that's pretty miraculous. We might see some snow tomorrow over in Kansas. I'm not even kidding. If you're over in Kansas, you might get some snow tomorrow evening with the back end of this trough. Areas like Hayes, Hastings, Dodge City. If you're in those areas, you may see a little bit of snowfall tomorrow night. So there might be some good news if you want to see some snow. But otherwise, again, that's kind of crazy that we might actually see some snow there tomorrow. Again, we are in November, so it makes a bit more sense. All right, let's actually talk about the big event, though. And I'm talking about the actual, main event that we're expecting tomorrow in terms of severe weather and the severe weather outbreak. And that is across the southern plains, including, again, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and as well as Texas. So those will be the 4 states that we're watching for very closely. The threat level does go as far north as areas like Kansas and Missouri. The threat, though, is going to be fairly low. It's mainly going to be just isolated, gusty, maybe damaging winds up that direction. But again, the biggest and most significant threat will be in this orange shaded region, and that will include areas along Interstate 35 and all the way back through areas in northwestern Louisiana, southwest Arkansas, and as well southeast Oklahoma. Now, the tornado potential, this is the current outlook. We may get an upgrade to a moderate risk with this. I wouldn't rule that out, but there is currently a 10% probability within a 25-mile radius of a potential strong tornado in this black hatched area. That would be right along the Interstate 35 W stretch over in North Texas, and it would continue off to the east, as far east as areas potentially near the basically just west of Shreveport. So those areas could have a potential for maybe a isolated strong tornado. Otherwise, we're probably going to at least see a few tornadoes tomorrow. Again, a couple of them could be strong. I cannot rule out a long track tornado by any means. That is not out of the question in areas, especially in northeast Texas. I think the greatest likelihood for all of these threats that I just mentioned in terms of tornadoes will likely be in this region. So if you're anywhere over there near Longview, for example, back over near Texarkana, make sure you have a plan in place for sure. But obviously anywhere in this region, it goes all the way through Oklahoma, goes all the way back up into Kansas, and as well as southwest Missouri, all included in at least a 2% probability, which means you should have a plan in place regardless of where you are in this entire outlook. Overall damaging wind threat, it's going to be 30% across the board. There's no significant threat on this, but I would not rule out an isolated storm producing winds between 70 to 80 miles per hour. It's not impossible. Most storms will produce between 60 to 70 mile per hour winds though overall. So again, if you're anywhere in this red shaded region, definitely be prepared for damaging winds tomorrow because we'll have 2 rounds of storms. Now I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown until we get to the timing. I want to give you a breakdown on each individual area and what the ingredients are, what is going to happen tomorrow, and what's going to take place. First, beginning with the temperatures. The temperatures tomorrow afternoon are likely to rise into the upper 70s and possibly the low 80s. And I'm mentioning this because if we get into the low 80s, that could create an extreme amount of buoyancy, first off, and that could potentially produce the potential for more than just 1 or 2 tornadoes here in the North Texas region. So we have to watch this pretty closely in terms of the temperatures. That equates to more instability, and eventually the instability could create a potential again for greater tornado threat, greater damaging wind threat, etc. There is supposed to be a lot of cloud cover tomorrow morning, and if that does happen and we don't see a whole lot of breaks in the clouds, we'll most likely have just regular, damaging wind threat with maybe a few tornadoes back off to the east. But if the temperatures do get into the low 80s, we could be talking about a whole different story. So we're watching that potential very closely, again, for maybe a lot of instability. And again, we do not want instability tomorrow by any means. There will be some out there because there will be a few breaks in the clouds, but if we get upwards of 1 to 2 hours of just straight up sunshine, that could create some havoc across North Texas. So that's not what we're looking for at this point. Dew points are going to be well into the low 70s. So again, buoyancy is going to definitely be there. We'll have fairly unstable atmosphere here with dew points again rising into the low 70s. So a lot of humidity for sure. And then eventually you can see the dry line, Cleburne, by about 10 o'clock tomorrow night will be down into the 20s for dew points. So it'll go from very humid to very dry in the matter of a couple of hours there. All right, temperatures back up in Oklahoma. It's a completely different story up here. This is why you're not into a huge tornado threat by any means. Temperatures are forecasted to be in the 60s and low 70s. That is, again, it's supportive of severe weather, but definitely not to the extent that we could see a full-blown severe weather outbreak up there. And dew points are into the 60s, so again, a little bit of buoyancy there, but it's not a whole lot to really be noted in that region. And again, dew points are going to be pretty juicy down there in North Texas. We're talking about dew points between 65 to 75 degrees for the most part. So a lot of humidity for sure. Cloud cover. And this is a weird graphic. It doesn't really have good blending at all. But if you look at these little like cracks here in the blue, that's representing your little breaks in the cloud. So maybe meaning some more instability growing with sunshine kind of peeking out there. So by about noontime, we're going to, for the most part, be just mostly cloudy skies across DFW. That's at least what's being forecasted. In that case, we'll most likely have, the potential for maybe a lot more or a little bit less instability than what's currently forecasted. So again, instability is not forecasted to be that high, but if we have a lot of breaks in these clouds, we may have more instability, which again would equivalent to potentially more severe weather than it's already forecasted. But by 5 to 6 o'clock, our cold front is back out here to the west. That could again create a potential for a squall line on the back end of the first initial round of storms. And I'll show you more of that on the timing here in just a second. So we'll have to watch that potential as well very closely. All right, let's go through the instability. The current forecasted instability for areas across areas like North Texas, so near the DFW Metroplex, is really going to be between about 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram, which is a decent amount. Again, it's definitely we're going to have a good amount of buoyancy for sure. It's going to be an unstable atmosphere, so we have to watch that potential very closely. Eventually heading into the overnight hours into Saturday morning, the instability will drop off, so only any severe weather that will exist after midnight will be in Louisiana, maybe southern Arkansas. So that's the current forecasted threat. You may be wondering, do I have to worry about hail? Because hail is definitely a possibility. It's not going to be that high of a threat overall. It should be on the lower end. The lapse rates are going to be between 6 to 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer. That's not really supportive enough for really much of hail. We might see a couple of storms produce upwards of golf ball sized hail. I can't run isolated supercell producing maybe slightly larger hail than that, but it's very unlikely at this point. It would be a very isolated threat overall. Hail is definitely not the main concern concern out of this event by any means. All right, let's talk about tornadoes. The significant tornado parameter, this gives us an idea of where we might see tornadoes and whatnot, what the probability might be in a certain location. So the significant tornado parameter, and if you kind of look closely, again, I can't really zoom in on this, but back over in North Texas, so any of those oranges, reds, and even some of those yellows that are kind of appearing there, those can indicate slightly higher tornado threat. So once we start to get to those colors, it does indicate a slightly higher tornado threat overall, and that would really again be existent just east of that I-35W stretch. So again, if you're over east of Dallas, for example, you have a greater tornado threat in comparison to an area like Fort Worth. Again, the low-level jet will be much stronger over there as well, which could equivalent again to some of those supercells definitely rotating. We're going to see a lot of supercells rotating in the upper levels tomorrow for sure. And this is the low-level jet, by the way. So by tomorrow afternoon, low-level jet will be between 45 to 55 knots. This is about at the 700 millibar level. So again, low-level jet's definitely going to be pretty strong tomorrow in this environment. It very well could get upwards of 60 knots. That's not out of the question in an isolated spot or two. So there will be a lot of rotating supercells for sure tomorrow. Whether tornadoes touch down in the Metroplex, for example, is kind of a question mark. Again, it's going to depend on the instability and whatnot for tomorrow. All right, let's talk about the future radar. Let's go location by location. We'll first begin with the big event in North Texas. So by lunchtime, and I'm going to show you two computer models because there's really two scenarios that happen. One, this is the first one where we will likely not have any really cap over the Metroplex, which will likely create the potential for showers and storms to develop as early as lunchtime tomorrow. So severe weather could very well begin as early as noon to maybe 1 p.m. tomorrow. So again, near areas like Plano. And if you're looking closely here, we have a couple of supercells you can kind of see pop up there, and these are the ones that were, I went too big on the color. These are the two though, or the three that we could potentially see develop if the temperature inversion isn't really that strong tomorrow, which it really isn't forecasted to be that strong. So we're probably not going to see much of a cap tomorrow. Again, that will lead to most likely some severe weather development as early as 1 to 2 o'clock. By 2 to 3 o'clock, a lot of storms are developing, and again, the greatest tornado threat will be out of any of those initial discrete supercells, which we'll be watching very closely here on not just Max Velocity, but on also on North Texas Weather Center. I do plan on going live, by the way, around probably 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, so make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, turn on post notifications. I'll keep you updated with the latest. But by 4 to 5 o'clock, those storms will move off to the east. That'll be our big cluster. The HRR model has pulled off a little bit on the squall line along that cold front, but again, 6 hours ago, 6 hours ago, was showing much more defined squall line. This is by 7 to 8 o'clock. It doesn't really show a whole lot of anything, so it just shows maybe a weaker squall line version, but we very well may see a squall line behind this. So just be prepared, especially if you're in the Metroplex. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot here, but there will definitely be some supercells here initially if they are able to develop that could very well produce that tornadic activity. Eventually going to the overnight hours, all those storms move off to the east. Oklahoma will see some storm activity as early as 12 to 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Damaging winds, my main concern. Might see a little bit of isolated large hail. Brief tornado is not impossible, especially in the southeastern part of the state. By 4 to 5 o'clock, those storms quickly race off to the east, and by 9 to 10 o'clock, all of Oklahoma is cleared out. Isolated flurries, maybe a coating could be possible up in the panhandle of Oklahoma, so just keep that in mind. Again, there's a possibility for snow, which is crazy. Going into Arkansas, we'll have a potential for storms as early as 5 to 6 o'clock near Fort Smith. Out in western Arkansas, by about 8 to 9 o'clock, that line quickly races off to the east. Little Rock and Pine Bluff will be impacted right around 10 to 12 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. tomorrow night. And then going to the overnight hours, that line will move into areas like Memphis and Greenville. So that line will race off to the east. Louisiana will see some storm activity going into most likely the late evening and overnight hours. So by 5 to 6 a.m., that entire cluster and line of storms will move through areas like southern and eastern Louisiana, back through Mississippi. Might even see an isolated storm with damaging winds even through western Alabama. Not out of the question with that line of storms. All right, this is the second scenario I want to kind of bring up to. This is the NAM model, and this has been a model that has been very accurate so far and very consistent actually over the last 24 to 48 hours in terms of severe weather. So we have to kind of monitor this model kind of closely because this one actually could be our actual scenario. It's not out of the question. So one big thing is, what will the cap be? What will the temperature inversion be here across the Metroplex? If the cap isn't overcome early in the day, we could see instead this line of storms, which would become a squall line, actually be our main event tomorrow. So by 3 to 4 o'clock, we do have a few storms forming out in front of it, but the NAM model really becomes depicted that the storms along the cold front will be the ones that are most severe. So we have to watch this scenario again pretty closely because again, we might see this scenario where we actually have a squall line, and that's that's where all the severe weather is, with maybe an isolated storm or two out in front of that that could be tornadic and whatnot, and very well could produce a significant tornado threat. But again, couple of scenarios here. We have to monitor both closely. They are very different from each other. One is showing, again, discrete super or semi-discrete supercells initially by about, noon to 2 p.m. And obviously this one's showing a line of storms developing about 4 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's two different scenarios here they have to watch for very closely. Most computer models have been sticking with the HRR model, which is the one I mentioned before that has the semi-discrete supercells, which again are going to potentially pose the most dangerous threats in terms of tornadoes and damaging winds. So just keep that in mind overall. But again, a couple of different scenarios there. By about 1 to 2 in the morning, that line quickly moves off to the east. All right, this is the last kind of graphic I'm going to show you, and then I'll get to some questions and I'll kind of go back through a few other things. But this is the updraft helicity. So this gives us an idea of where our tornado threat will be, where the greatest tornado threat is, and it really extends across a large area. So from about DFW all the way back through potentially into the Northeast Texas region. Again, I think the greatest tornado threat will be outlined over in Northeast Texas, Southeast Oklahoma, and Southwest Arkansas. And then back over to the HRR model showing pretty similar stuff. It does show a long track potentially tornado through areas like Texarkana, for example. Again, that is, don't be panicking about that, just a one model run, but it is a possibility that we do have a long track tornado with maybe a storm. So again, make sure you have a way to receive alerts tomorrow. Make sure you're weather aware. That is the best thing that you can do tomorrow. Have a plan in place tonight and not tomorrow when you're under a tornado warning. It's always good to have that plan in place tonight, especially if you live in like an RV, for example. I know a lot of people are wondering, what should I do? Make sure you're putting that plan in place though tonight and not tomorrow, because again, we could have some pretty significant severe weather tomorrow here across the state of Texas, and really again all across the southern plains is definitely going to be a possibility. All right, let me go and put a little thing in chat. I'll put a Q&A thing, so if you guys want to ask questions, I'll put that in chat. So again, I'm going to be answering questions. Use that button, that little, it'll say like a Q&A thing. You can ask a question in there, and I'll be answering some questions here on the live stream. So it'll make it easier than just me responding in comments and trying to get back to all of them. So how's everybody doing tonight, by the way? Is everybody doing all right tonight? I know it's been a fairly busy, obviously preparing for the severe weather event. It's been pretty busy. So how you doing, Virginia? Welcome back. Thank you, by the way, Virginia, for becoming a Tornado Chaser member. Appreciate it. Let you do that off stream. How's it going, Frankie? Welcome back. By the way, the next SPC outlook, the next Storm Prediction Center outlook comes out at 2 a.m. So just a heads up. Is this storm going to reach max velocity? That's a good one. Hey, how you doing, Bugs? Welcome back. Yeah, James, it's kind of one of these scenarios. Again, it depends on what happens, and I've seen the NAM model be a bit more consistent recently. So again, the significant tornado threat is not impossible in the Denton County area. If we look at the current graphic, obviously Denton County is not really included in it. What the storm prediction says at the 2 a.m. outlook will probably give us a better idea of what we can expect, because right now the hatched area is east of DFW, and again, I can't rule out a tornado threat in Denton County, and there is a tornado threat, and it's not impossible that we have a significant tornado by any means, but it's going to depend on the scenario that we actually end up happening. Will there be a stronger cap, and that will lead to the squall line, or will there be a weaker cap leading to those discrete supercells initially in eastern DFW, and those eventually produce the more significant tornado threat and maybe a secondary squall line posing mostly damaging winds? Two different scenarios, and obviously both, it's definitely two differences. And the HRR model has been fairly consistent. It's been fairly accurate up to this point with almost every severe weather event. There's just differing opinions basically with the two computer models in terms of what we could expect. So again, this is the first one, the HRR model, which indicates storms developing as early as 1 to 2 o'clock. And then eventually we have that squall line behind it that develops. That could pose maybe some damaging winds, large hail, and again, an isolated tornado threat. But it will really depend on what happens tomorrow morning. We'll have more details. I know they're going to be putting up some sound in the weather balloons. I'm not sure when they're doing it tomorrow. I know they typically have one during the morning at 12Z, I'm pretty sure, and then they'll probably do a special one at like 18Z or something like that. That's my assumption for the weather balloons. Kimber, if you're planning on getting your kids home early in Bonham, good time would be like 12 or 1 o'clock. That'd be before the storms, if you plan on doing that. I know a lot of people have been mentioning, when should I bring my, people are saying like, I want to go pick up my kids home early or whatever. I would recommend it probably by lunchtime, maybe 1 o'clock at the latest, because supercells could develop as early as 12 to 1 o'clock. Now, I'm not recommending you do, because again, school's safe as well. But yeah, I would say realistically, storms will begin firing up as early as maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. at least in North Texas. And again, the greatest likelihood of storms developing at around that time will be in this region here. So again, basically just east of DFW, gonna be just east of Interstate 35W would probably be the best chance there. All right, let me look at the actual questions tab here. I haven't really looked at that yet. All right, there's a lot of questions here. Let me turn that down. There we go. All right, so let's see. Chances of the storm moving slower and impacting the west. Yeah, there's a possibility. So this was the other scenario that I mentioned, which is the squall line developing. And it's not really a slower scenario. It's actually really, I think it's actually slightly quicker. It just depends on the cap out in front of it and whatnot. So if this squall line ends up developing, potential does exist for storms to develop as far west as not really Wichita Falls. It's not impossible, but Weatherford kind of in the Interstate 35W area. So if you're not familiar with the area, this is Interstate 35W. So storms I kind of drew that line bad, but this is basically the area here of where the storms may develop along. So again, this is one scenario out of a couple, and this is definitely a possibility. Again, most computer models have been on the HRR model side, which that's the one that I've showed you before that is showing more of a storm development, basically going to the early afternoon hours. The NAM3K is showing a completely different story with just a squall line with a couple of isolated discrete supercells out in front of it, which again, timing is going to kind of matter here. Again, cap is going to matter as well. We'll have to kind of wait and see what happens there, but there's a couple of different scenarios there for sure. Do I think the Keelan and Waco area will be bad? There's a possibility. But I don't know if any of these initial cells will really impact you. I think if you're going to have anything, it's going to be that squall line behind it. But again, make sure you're ready, because I'm pretty sure Waco is included in that enhanced risk of severe weather. This is the HR. Let me go back over to the NAM3K. And this is the NAM3K, which shows, again, that cluster or that line potentially of storms rolling through Waco and Keelan. So definitely not out of the question. Rockwall is definitely in the spot. Yeah, Rockwall's it's not a hot spot, I would say, but it's definitely one of the more likely areas to see severe weather tomorrow. And this is like one computer model run at 2 p.m. and Rockwall is definitely pretty close to those severe weather or severe storms, excuse me. So definitely not out of the question. Rockwall could see some severe weather there. Yeah, if you have questions, I'll try to answer them in chat. I was trying to look at the ask me questions thing, but. Why is the SPC not increasing damaging wind to significant when every other model has a good squall line potential? Squall lines don't always produce 70+ mile/hour winds, and there's a possibility that this one doesn't. And really, again, there's a possibility that we do see a squall line, but the latest model run from the HRR is hardly showing that. So again, it's possible that we get a significant threat as confidence grows, but I wouldn't kind of bet on that, because again, there's a possibility that that squall line is kind of weak. The HR model in the latest run showing a bit more of a weak squall line, just due to the fact these storms seem to hang around DFW, limiting the instability along that cold front back out here to the west around 3 to 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So Little Rock, main concern will be damaging winds for you, Haley. Definitely damaging winds for you. Probably gonna be the main concern. This is the latest NATO cast update, by the way. I don't typically look at this. I mean, I do occasionally, but like I don't really take it that seriously. But it has been accurate at some times, and I would say that this is probably our hotspot. I kind of said that before, but Northeast Texas, kind of near the Longview area. Let me zoom in a little bit. We can zoom in pretty far on this. The latest NATO cast update shows that little red spot being our highest tornado potential, which would make sense. It would be probably somewhere here in Northeast Texas. So let's just go back over to this radar over to here, if I can find it. There we go. So yeah, Tyler, just north of there, the latest NATO cast update just came out, and it shows probably the greatest tornado potential there in Northeast Texas. Now, that's not an official, government source thing, but it has been accurate in the past. So, well, I wouldn't be surprised again if we get a moderate threat tomorrow. I wouldn't be. I don't know if we'll get it at the 2 a.m. update, but we'll probably get some sort of moderate risk in here. I would expect it in that area. Exactly where I circled would probably be a moderate risk of severe weather if they were to issue one. But again, we won't know that for at least another 3.5 hours. Or wait, let's see. No, 2.5 hours. We got 2.5 hours until the next Storm Prediction Center update. And then if they don't issue it then they could issue it in the morning. So yeah, this would definitely be the hot spot, not just for the moderate threat, but obviously tornadoes definitely gonna be the hot spot here, I'd say, just east of the DFW area. That seems to be the greatest potential. So yeah, I'd definitely be concerned about that area. But yeah, the latest NatoCast update definitely showing some signs of little spot there. Again, it's not huge, but it is definitely going to be concerning there. That's the 15% probability comparison to the 10. But again, it's just one forecast. Obviously, things could change, but I would actually realistically say that that's probably will end up happening there. Look at the 10 meter gusts. Let me go back over to here real quick. Yeah, the Midwest was supposed to see some pretty substantial wind gusts potentially out of this entire system once it rolls through this area. Yeah, wind gusts could get upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour up in the Midwest going into late Saturday from that trough. It's going to get pretty wild up there. There's also potential for snow, by the way. Real quick, I want to show you the snow that could come out of this, not just in the Midwest, but also down in the southern or central plains. There could be a little bit of snow in Iowa even. Little trail of snow. I don't know if we'll see much in the upper Midwest or even the Midwest in general, but there is a possibility for maybe a little bit of snow, even in the Texas Panhandle. There's a possibility, or going tomorrow afternoon and evening, there's a possibility. I don't know if much accumulation will actually come out of it, but I can't rule out that you get maybe a coating if you're lucky. Surface temperature should be able to keep it probably not sticking much, but nothing to look at. Possibility for snow. Obviously, that's not really our concern, though. It's really going to be the severe weather. Severe weather is obviously the concern. Snow, really, any of that snow that actually ends up happening probably won't be any concern. Let me look at just for curiosity, I don't know if they've actually issued any weather prediction center stuff on that. We'll look real quick. Wouldn't be surprised if they did. Yeah, so there actually is. So the 1 to 3 day outlook, there is, make sure it's on the screen properly. So there is actually a little area here, this yellow area. I believe that's near Omaha, if I'm not mistaken. A little minor impacts from some snow possible up there. So if you're curious on the winter weather impacts that might come out of this trough, minor impacts possible up there as far south as actually Nebraska. So a little possibility there. By the way, if you're just tuning in, you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Again, I do plan on being live for a pretty long time tomorrow. I might be live upwards of 8 hours, possibly even 10 hours. It's just going to depend on what happens tomorrow. I will be live on both Facebook and YouTube. So we'll be live on both platforms, kind of keeping you updated with the latest information and whatnot, what you need to know. We'll be doing live coverage. We'll have live cams as well. We actually do have a live cam even tonight if you guys want to take a quick look at what it looks like in the Metroplex right now. This is a live view here. And again, clear skies. This is the calm before the storm right now in North Texas. This is over in Lantana. If you're familiar with the Metroplex, which I know I have a lot of North Texas viewers, so this is again looking pretty clear out there. If you have any evening walks, might as well go for an evening walk. I know it's like almost 11 o'clock there, but pretty nice out right now. But obviously, this is the calm before the storm. Not a there was actually a little there was a good patch of clouds a little while ago. It has now cleared out, but we'll take a little look at that later if there's any planes or anything. I saw a plane on there earlier, which is kind of interesting. All right, let me get back some questions. Again, if you have questions, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'll get to them. Is this a negatively tilted trough? I'll show you kind of what it looks like. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. It was supposed to be it was actually originally supposed to be a negatively tilted trough. That has changed. This is a look at the, let's go to 300 millibar level. This is a look at it now. It's going to be pretty much neutral, and then it'll go a bit more negatively tilted as it goes up through areas in the Midwest. Back up here, there is a low tornado potential, I would say, going into Illinois and maybe Western Indiana on Saturday. They have not issued a risk for it yet, but I would not rule out an isolated tornado or two. It would be brief threat. It wouldn't be too concerning, but just keep that in mind. You'll have wind gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour to begin with as well. So, but yeah, it's not negatively tilted. It's kind of close to it. It's pretty much neutral. So yeah, originally this was, if we go back, like, I don't know if we can go that far back. I'll see if I can go that far back on here. This was a little while ago. Not showing on here either, but back earlier this week, it was showing a negatively tilted trough. And actually, not just that, it actually showed a cutoff low before that. It showed literally a cutoff low down here, which would have been significant. This would have been possibly a really extreme severe weather outbreak if we had a cutoff low. Luckily, that is no longer in the forecast. It was originally possibly going to be a thing, but that was, again, at least 100 hours ago. So that was a possibility for a little while. Hey, Goose, how you doing? Welcome back. Seen you a while. Humidity is high. Yes, the humidity is very high. This is a look at the dew points. There's gonna be a decent amount of buoyancy tomorrow, and I mentioned this earlier with the dew points, and it's a pretty crucial feature here. The dew points are not super critical here. I mean, low 70s, definitely a lot of humidity here, but the more crucial thing will be the temperatures tomorrow. If we get a lot of breaks in the sun, which again, current forecast is that we'll have a lot of cloud cover tomorrow morning. In that case, we probably will not see really that significant of severe weather in the Metroplex, but if the temperatures do end up passing 80 in some areas here, we possibly have that chance for maybe a couple of tornadoes here in the Metroplex. It's not impossible. So we have to monitor that potential very closely, depending on where those temperatures are at by tomorrow afternoon. If the clouds really do break a lot and we get a lot of sunshine, a lot more, that means a lot more instability, right? So we have to monitor that very closely. But yeah, I would definitely say that that is definitely a big question mark right now, whether that will happen or not. Let's go back over to that one. Yeah, this guy is a quick run through on timing if you're just tuning in. So kind of play it by hour here slowly. What's up with Tulsa, Oklahoma? Main concern up there will be just damaging winds. I don't expect much beyond that, though, up there. New discussion. All right, let's go over to the software. Stop over to it real quick. Over to the other screen. And we will take a quick look. I'm guessing it's not on here yet. No, it's not. Actually, there's a lot of snow up here. That's interesting. Let's go over to the live radar, though. There's actually snow already happening in Nebraska. We actually got some snow over there. There's a little storm near Hayes right now, so over in Kansas, not anything too significant, but we have a lot of snow. We're getting a load of snow reports over there. So there's a new mesoscale discussion, apparently. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate, but I'll take a quick look. I wouldn't rule it out. Let's see. I don't think there is one. Oh, there is one. Okay. Just wasn't showing up on either site. All right, so this is the latest outlook. I will show it on here as, oh, I guess it's going to turn into a photo. We'll go ahead and roll with that. This is the latest outlook, by the way. It hasn't shown up on my screen yet, but possibility for some storms between 1 to 3 a.m. Again, I won't be live for it, but some damaging winds and maybe some severe hail possible. I can't rule out a brief tornado. That would, again, be across this region here overnight tonight, so just make sure you have a way to receive alerts. Again, if you're in Oklahoma, the current threat level tonight is a slight risk. Again, that includes from about Salina back through the eastern panhandle of Texas and western Oklahoma tonight. Marginal threat goes through areas just west of Oklahoma City. Again, it's an overnight threat tonight. On the other hand, we have snow ongoing back up in the Central Plains. It's kind of crazy to think. And it's not really crazy. This is kind of a bit more typical for this time of the year, but it is kind of crazy that we're seeing snow. I mean, I haven't seen really much snow at all recently, so obviously, there hasn't been any in October. There wasn't much in October at all. We only had snow up in the Michigan Peninsula and the upper Michigan Peninsula, and that was because of lake effect snow. So it's kind of interesting. Hey, by the way, thank you, Richard, for becoming a Hurricane Chaser member. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. All right, let me get back some questions here. I know it's 73 degrees. Is it really right now? Let me go over to here. I'm just going to stay on this screen. We'll kind of play around with this. Really that warm right now? Yeah, it actually is. The 10 p.m. forecast is about that. Let's get some claps in the chat, by the way, for Richard. I appreciate you becoming a Hurricane Chaser member. Thank you. This is the highest tornado threat. Yes, this is the highest tornado risk since March. Specifically for North Texas, too. There has been 10% hatched areas, I'm pretty sure, recently. But this is definitely the highest risk that we've actually had since March. So it's been a while. That's why this event is being taken so seriously. Because it is a potentially high threat that we're seeing tomorrow, without a doubt. So we got to watch this pretty closely. But again, I would expect the greatest concern to be in Northeast Texas. And let me go back over to the screen. Let's go to, by the way, temperatures tomorrow are going to Saturday morning. Could dive into the upper 30s in some areas. It's going to get cold after this cold front comes through, which would make sense. But kind of funny when, I don't know if anybody follows me on Facebook, but sometimes somebody will say in chat, like, or in the comments, somebody will be like in North Texas, for example, I do North Texas weather on Facebook, and they'll basically say, like, I'm saying there's a cold front coming. It's gonna be like a 5-degree drop from like 91 degrees to 85 degrees. And like, that's not a cold front. I'm like, yes, it is. It is actually classified as a cold front. But people don't believe me, but it is a cold front. I know cold fronts, if you're dropping from 91 to 86, it might not feel like it, but thank you, Richard, for becoming a VIP Chaser member. I appreciate that a lot, Richard. Let's get some claps in the chat for Richard. That is a huge commitment here to the YouTube channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, Shelly, how you doing? Welcome back. All right, let me get back to this questions tab here. All right, will Kentucky get in on any rain on Saturday? Kentucky. Let's take a look. Not sure if Kentucky will see much, but pretty sure it's going to probably stay a bit more. Actually, you might see some rain. Won't be anything significant, but you might get a little bit of rain. Can't rule out an isolated gusty wind storm. It isn't really a thing. Just gusty winds with the storms possible. But other than that, maybe a little bit of rain. Pikeville, for example, if you're over in eastern Kentucky, it's going to be a lower chance overall. But yeah, a little bit of rain can't be ruled out there. Downtown Fort Worth. Yeah, Fort Worth has a possibility. Again, I'm going to kind of give it a 50-50 right now, because we don't really know what's going to end up happening there. This is the threats, by the way. I made this here. Again, there's a couple of scenarios, which is why I say we don't really know what's going to happen there. There's a possibility that you do get some severe weather. There's also a possibility you get really nothing. So we'll have to see what kind of plays out tomorrow morning. Again, we should have more details by early tomorrow morning. This is the severe weather threats, by the way, for the North Texas region, specifically east of Interstate 35W. Again, damaging wind threat is the highest threat right now. Tornado threat is kind of in that medium stage. It is getting close to the high range, though, especially if you're in Northeast Texas. I would consider this close to the high range in my kind of terminology here. Large hail is also going to be kind of on the lower end, and then flooding is really not much of a threat, at least in Texas. Possibility back up in eastern Oklahoma for a little bit of isolated flash flooding, but just a little threat level there. And this is also another graphic I made specifically within 50 miles of Dallas. What is the chance of you seeing a threat? So an 80% chance of damaging winds within 50 miles of the within Dallas, excuse me. So again, that's actually pretty high. I mean, I would expect that probably closer to 90 to 100%, but I'm putting it at 80% for now. That means there is a 20% chance that doesn't happen. Tornado threat is 60% chance, so a tornado happening within 50 miles of Dallas for right now. Again, that can kind of vary a little bit, but for right now, again, 60% chance it happens, 40% chance it doesn't. Large hail, on the other hand, is a 40% chance it happens within a 50-mile radius of Dallas, and then a 60% chance it doesn't. So a couple of interesting graphics. I made them specifically for North Texas Weather Center, but you're in the North Texas region, just a little heads up there. Again, I would creep this up a little bit more for those in Northeast Texas, including areas just west of Texarkana, for example. So it's kind of a little heads up there overall. All right, let's go back over to here. Oh, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Again, we'll be covering the live event tomorrow here on YouTube and as well as on Facebook. We're only 9 subscribers as well from 25,900, so I would appreciate it. All right. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll be answering some here. I'll probably be live for at least another 25 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes, kind of answering some questions here. If you have any specific questions on timing as well, I'll kind of get to those as well. But again, there's a couple of scenarios here. We could see, again, the scenario that seems the most likely at this point, this is what the Storm Prediction Center has been going with as well, is that we'll have some semi-discrete supercells developing as early as 12, 1, 2 in the afternoon for those just kind of east of Interstate 35W. And then by about 4 to 5 o'clock, we might have another squall line potentially develop behind that. The latest HRR model run does not indicate that at all, really. It's a fairly weak squall line in comparison to what we saw earlier, which was a bit more of a defined area, so the cells developing are kind of in the early afternoon hours, and eventually we have that squall line develop here in eastern DFW and just south of DFW. So something to kind of keep in mind. Again, there's some varying scenarios here. The latest model run just came in. I'm not sure if this is going to show anything, but the latest HRR model run shows cells actually developing now slightly further west. Now take it with a grain of salt, but actually this is a little bit further west than originally. That's like about 50, that's a good 20 to 30 miles further west in just 1 hour, which is interesting, but again, take it with a grain of salt. That is definitely something to monitor, though. And that's why I said before, Fort Worth, if you're in Fort Worth or Denton County, those two areas right now are kind of in that 50-50 range. If we see the trend go further west and this trough is slightly slower to move here with that dry line and whatnot, there's a possibility that we see those semi-discrete cells form as far west there as the Interstate 35 stretch. So we have to monitor that potential very closely. But if you look at this, I'm going to kind of compare and contrast here. Let's do the 1 p.m. hour here and here. I'll kind of do it side by side. I can, just for comparison purposes. But this is like the latest run. So what you can see here, this is the 1 p.m. hour on the 000 run, and the most recent one is slightly further west. That's kind of why I'm kind of saying here, the variation here is pretty significant. We could see storms develop really anywhere in this range, I would say, here in the North Texas region. And I know 20 to 30 miles might not seem like a huge difference, but in this case, it really could be, because for those that live in North Texas, this is a very populated area. I mean, we're talking at least, I think, 10 million people now in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. So it's a very populated area. That's why I'm kind of concerned right now for that potential tomorrow. again, it's obviously very populated, so we're hoping that this doesn't end up happening, but it's obviously a possibility here. And we can't go any further here, but definitely, again, something to really monitor here. Look at the soundings real quick. This is a look at the soundings. Not sure if I can really... I can probably do it on the tropics screen here. Try it on here. It's a little bit small. For this live stream, I'll just kind of shrink this down a little bit. So let's do this. There we go. So here's a little sounding. Again, soundings might look very confusing to you. It's just, again, it's kind of a way that we look at the upper level winds and everything, like, you know, what's going on with everything in terms of temperatures, the dew points, lapse rates, a bunch of stuff is on here. Possible hazard type, though, you can see tornado. That's obviously not something you want to see. The LI index is near -7. That is not very favorable. But that's a fairly favorable for tornadic threat, but that's obviously something that we don't want to see. An LI index of near 7 being estimated, -7. Not really any cap, by the way. That's at 0, so no cap at all, really. Instability near the surface at almost 2,500 being or at least being, you know, indicated by the computer model long term. So possibility there for sure. Those are kind of the main things to kind of look at here, though. Yep, just a little sounding. If you're curious on the soundings and whatnot. Soundings get very confusing, though. It looks very confusing for a lot of people that haven't looked at them before. I did a whole class on soundings, by the way. They're very detailed. There's a lot of things that you need to know with soundings and whatnot. We actually haven't gone to, I think it's called hodographs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, hodographs. I've actually not learned those yet here in college, but we've learned pretty much everything else. That's the one thing, for some reason, we didn't learn. And it was a weather aviation class that we learned soundings in. Very weird. But that makes sense. You know, pilots have to fly through this sort of stuff, so. What are your thoughts on a moderate risk? I do think there probably will be one, and if there is one, I'll kind of outline it here for you. This would probably be the area of the moderate risk. I think I just shifted that from before. It was probably this area, though. There's a moderate risk, could probably be in there. But again, I'm not the Storm Prediction Center. I can't predict that they'll do that, but there's probably a good chance that they will. As long as the trends hold up. That seems like a prime area, though, for, again, all modes of severe weather. Waco, currently, the main concern is going to be damaging winds. Isolated tornado threat is possible as well. Now, tell me the likelihood of a tornado in Waco. I can't really tell you a likelihood. If we go back to this graphic, though, an idea. Let me make sure it's on the right screen here. So if we go to this graphic here, if we were talking about Waco, so this is the Dallas forecast, but if we're talking about within 50 miles of Waco, I'd probably put this number at about a 5 down there, maybe a 4. I think the tornado threat will be slightly lower down there, unless that secondary squall line does end up happening. It'd be close to about a 5 or 6 on that scale, within a 50-mile radius. Again, 50 miles is a pretty large area. I mean, if you were talking about Dallas, for example, and this is kind of the radius we did earlier, so Dallas, 50 miles, this is approximate, but it's pretty much this area here. Oops, I made that circle way too big. But it basically, this is kind of like the 50-mile radius here of Dallas. So you drew a circle to this, which my drawing skills, you can see, are perfect. That looks like a perfect circle to me. But, I mean, this is basically what we're looking at here in terms of a radius of Dallas within that tornado threat. So again, the tornado threat currently in Dallas, again, and just east of there, is in that significant threat and 10% chance right now. So within 50 miles of there, I'm saying about a 5 or 6. It's kind of like a Torcon by the Weather Channel almost, because it's within 50 miles. I'm giving it about a 5 or 6 there around this area. So of a tornado happening. Again, that could be a very brief tornado. Could even see a long track tornado. Again, seems like the greatest tornado threat right now in terms of a long track situation would be out here somewhere. We could see we could possibly see a long track tornado. It's not impossible tomorrow. So again, make sure you have a way to receive alerts. But again, it's definitely an area to watch in Northeast Texas tomorrow. Is that a Circle water bottle? It sure is, Kimber. Yes, I drink Circle. Rockwall, Texas is kind of included in that same thing, Brad. So yeah, Brad, that's definitely in consideration for that potential for mainly damaging winds. Again, I would expect damaging winds the main concern. I know a lot of people are like, you see all these pinks and stuff showing up, that must mean hail. Not necessarily. The hail threat's going to be not actually that high tomorrow. It's going to be mainly damaging winds and a tornado threat. The lapse rates are like 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer. And what that basically means is that we don't have steep lapse rates. Once we get closer to like 8 to 9 degrees per kilometer, that means we're dropping off in temperature much quicker. So let's just say this is 9, or let's just put this as like 8.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. And then this is, let's just say 7 here. doing a little lesson for everybody that really cares about this. But this is basically what we're looking at in terms of hail. So hailstones are obviously going to melt much quicker in an environment like 70 degrees Celsius per kilometer in comparison to 8.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer, because the temperature is obviously increasing much quicker, or it's really increased much more here in the mid-level elevation in comparison to where we could see a storm like here drop hailstone. It might probably be much larger. So again, it's just kind of a very brief explanation, but I have a whole video on that, I'm pretty sure, for members, but I could be wrong. Yeah, actually I do. Just like a little tutorial video. In Wisconsin's not going to see much. It would be mostly rain over Wisconsin. You're gonna have a rainy next couple of days. Bro, I'm not 100% guaranteeing a stream tomorrow, but I would expect one. As long as the trends continue, I'll be live. I'm planning on skipping like 2 classes already, so I do plan on being live. I would not be skipping classes if it wasn't including North Texas, because North Texas is literally an area that I cover on both Facebook and YouTube. Facebook has 35,000 followers that are just in North Texas, so I got to cover this event, especially if it's impacting DFW. That is a very highly followed area that I cover. So we do have another HRR model run, by the way, coming in. I'm waiting to see what it shows here in the 12 to 1 p.m. hour, see if there's any differences. I'm kind of like looking at these little minor things, but it can be important for timing and whatnot. Yeah, it's gonna be windy in Wisconsin. It's gonna get upwards of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. I'll be fine, Virginia. I got like all A's right now. I'm not concerned. Hey Kyle, how you doing? Bruce, Canton is definitely an area to monitor for tomorrow. I would definitely assume that you'll probably see some severe weather of some sort, so definitely be prepared. Yeah, go back over to the NAM3K. Let's go on this one. Let's play it hour by hour here. I'm going to take a quick look at Twitter and see if there's any new updates there. I don't think there is. I don't see any. So yeah, we don't have any new updates on Twitter for right now. Yeah, next Storm Prediction Center update comes out in 2 hours and 15 minutes if you want to do a countdown. They sometimes do it earlier, but if they add a moderate risk, I would expect that outlook to be out right around 2 a.m. It wouldn't probably be early. Hey, Peppermint, how you doing? Tyler and the Longview area will probably have the highest threat for severe weather tomorrow, so make sure you have a plan in place. Again, if we're kind of point out where the greatest threat is going to be tomorrow, and again, there's not a moderate risk now, but I would expect this area here will probably have a moderate risk of some sort. So again, if you're in this area, you have to be for sure having a plan in place if you don't already. Make sure you're prepared for severe weather. Look up articles. I even have an article of my own on my website. Let me see if I can find that real quick. That has a full guide on how you can prepare for severe weather. Link it in chat if I can find it. I think I can find it. Yeah, I can. All right, so this is an article. If you guys want to know how you can prepare for severe weather, I'll put it in chat. Feel free to click on it, but that is an article I actually did on my website a while back. So actually somebody actually wrote it for me, so, but gives you an idea of what you can expect, how you can prepare at least. So could Dallas, Plano, or whatever, or anywhere like the Metroplex see a long track tornado? I doubt it. Any long track tornado favorability at this point is kind of pointing in this area here that I already circled here in red. And if we go over to the, let's go over to here. Let me make sure this is on the right screen. Yeah, it is. So any long tracked possibilities for right now seem to most likely going to be happening here over basically east of the Metroplex. There's a low chance, you know, if you're like east of Dallas, but I think any long track tornado threat will probably be over in Northeast Texas. That's my kind of expectation for right now, but it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's very low, I would say, over in the Metroplex. Very low chance. And the NAM3K model shows a possibility for an isolated long track tornado even down here just southeast of Dallas. So it's not out of the question. It's a low chance, but it's not zero. So again, it's kind of, you might be confused with what we're even looking at here. That's the best explanation I can get. Again, this is the updraft helicity, so it's a whole different story in terms of helicity. I mean, it's a whole different explanation, but gives us an idea of what the mid and low level rotations will be, and you know what we could see in terms of a tornado threat. So, and a lot of, I put a lot of graphics in here that take a lot of explaining. I should make more like tutorial videos on this sort of stuff, but. By the way, we're only one subscriber right now from 25,900. If you have not already, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. I would appreciate it. Granbury, are we down for any storms? I don't think Granbury will see much. This is an hour by hour. I'm waiting for the next, we're going to be like 2 minutes away probably from the next couple of updates on the latest HR model run. But Granbury probably will not see much. You might see an isolated storm, but I'm not going to lie. I don't think Granbury will see much. But again, be prepared for severe weather at least. But my personal opinion, we probably will not see too much. You might get an isolated storm, but I don't know if you'll see much in terms of severe weather at this point. Doesn't seem likely. When does Sherman get rain? Sherman will see rain most likely as early as possibly 12 or 1 p.m. I mean, you can even see it earlier than that, but storms will probably fire up around 1 o'clock or so, maybe slightly earlier. Hey, Ethan, how you doing? Anything gonna hit Argyle? Argyle has a possibility for severe weather. Yes, it's possible, but yeah, if you're asking about specific locations, go to the beginning of this live stream. Like, literally just scroll all the way back to the beginning. I have a full breakdown on specific locations in like the first 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll be quicker than just answering every individual location. If you're in North Texas specifically. Longview, I didn't really mention Longview in the first 5 to 10 minutes, but Longview is in that threat for potentially some significant severe weather tomorrow. Again, this area probably has the greatest potential for there's definitely a possibility somewhere in this area of a strong or even a long track tornado somewhere in here. It's possible. With the current setup that we have, it's definitely possible here, but that would include, I'm pretty sure, Longview would be included in that. So we are now at 11 a.m. I'm still waiting for the 12 p.m. Again, once we get to the 1 p.m., the HR model will give us an idea of when storms may fire up. So the latest update. Refresh it. I actually already updated. So this is 12 p.m. on the HR model on the latest run. Again, I'm taking it hour by hour here. Take it with a grain of salt. But this is the cold front back here / dry line. And then we got over here the showers beginning to develop there. Storms would develop around 1 p.m. So we'll be there here in just a second. So again, there's not going to be a whole lot of instability most likely tomorrow. There will be enough, obviously, for severe weather. But a lot of cloud cover tomorrow morning. That will limit how much severe weather we do overall see here in the North Texas region. So what are the chances of hail in the DFW Metroplex? Great question, because I actually have a graphic for it. This is the threat levels in this is specifically all of North Texas, primarily, but this is like primarily east of Interstate 35W. So yeah, this is the best idea that you can kind of get for those. But again, this is not, just kind of for clarification purposes, this does not mean a moderate threat of severe weather or anything like that. It's just on my own terminology. So a high potential for some damaging winds, a medium threat for a tornado threat. DFW specifically will probably see more of a damaging wind threat if you see severe weather. Hail is on pretty much the low end at this point. So it's clear here in Springfield, Missouri. Funny that you actually said that, because we do have a live cam out of Lantana. And this is currently live. There's not really any clouds in the sky. We only have these high clouds back there in the background that are kind of hard to see. So this is currently live in Texas. And I mean, we're not seeing single cloud in the sky. It's calm before the storm. Calm before the storm. And we actually saw a plane flying on here earlier. I did before the stream started, but no longer see that. Kind of unfortunate. I was kind of hoping another one showed up. All right, this is the 1 p.m. Update, by the way, on the HRR model, which, again, take it with a grain of salt, but it's still showing the location of where these storms may develop is going to be somewhere most likely in here, which, again, there could be a possibility that we have a discrete cell or semi-discrete cell develop here near the Interstate 35 area, which would be near Denton and Tarrant counties areas, so possibly near Fort Worth or Denton, and possibly Gainesville. But obviously, for right now, it seems like the HR model is still kind of hinting that a storm will develop or two somewhere in this area, which, again, it's just one computer model. If the cap holds up long enough, we can go ahead and go over to the NAM3K model, and this will give you an idea that we might see just a squall line develop during the mid-afternoon hours, with a couple of cells maybe developing during the 2 to 3 o'clock hour. So there's a couple of scenarios still. I'm still thinking the HRR model will probably be more accurate in this sort of scenario, but it's not out of the question that a squall line develops instead, and then we could possibly see a couple of tornadoes out of this. So any chances for EF3 plus tornadoes? Yeah, there's definitely a chance for that. I mean, the last time we had an event like this, we had, at least in North Texas, it was a bit different, but it was a pretty somewhat similar event, I would say. We had a couple of strong EF3 tornadoes, one near Jacksboro, or somewhere over here near Jack County. We also had another one near Bowie. I'm not sure if that was an EF3. I can't remember for sure. Then obviously the Lockett tornado, if you remember that was back in March. Not the same event by any means than that, but they have some similar characteristics. So I wouldn't rule it out. There's a possibility, but again, that would be somewhere over here if there were to be something like that. It would probably be east of the Metroplex. Granted, any big changes to the current forecast at this point, but Do I think this threat will linger into Saturday? Yeah, there's a possibility. Let's go over to... I have a graphic somewhere on here. This is the snow. By the way, just a quick note. If you're over in Kansas, you might see some snow tomorrow evening. So if you're over there in Hayes. Bowie was an EF2, EF1. Getting different things here. I actually have an article on it, so I probably could find it, but... let's go over to the nationwide look, though. I'm looking at the snow here. All right, let's go to this. This is the threat into Saturday, back over the Midwest. There's a possibility for an isolated tornado that's brief. It won't be significant by any means, but I can't rely on an isolated tornado threat over in the Midwest, possibly going into Saturday morning or late Friday night. It's not out of the question, but it's giving a pretty low chance. The latest model runs are even speeding this trough up even quicker, which if that happens, I don't expect much of any tornado threat, but it would be, if anything, a very marginal threat. We're not looking at an outbreak by any means up in the Midwest. There possibly could be some snow on the back end in Iowa, by the way, so... You're looking for snow. You got some coming toward you, maybe. Maybe a few flurries. Not really any accumulation, though. No, it's actually, again, funny you mentioned it. I haven't mentioned it in my forecast. There are a few areas, though, in the Atlantic Ocean that could develop into potential tropical storms long term. I don't know if I want to go to my software for this. Oh, let me see if I can pull it up on here. I'm not sure if it fits in well. It doesn't really on here. We'll zoom out a little bit on here. So just a quick tropics update. It's not gonna be that long, but we do have a couple of areas. One just southeast of Florida, 30% chance of developing. There is actually a possibility that this does become a tropical storm. I don't know if they'll become a hurricane long term, but might be something to watch for Florida. And then we also have another area that has a pretty low chance of developing east of Bermuda. And then we have Lisa, which had the craziest track ever. But other than that, those are really the only systems that we're watching. But I haven't mentioned the one that's southeast of Florida because I don't expect it to be that significant. But it possibly could pose some impact. So I'll have an update on that probably on Saturday or Sunday because that's still several days from now. That's at least a good, I'd say, week from now anyways. A snow NATO in Kansas? Hey, are we actually, I don't know, how many of you guys have actually heard of a snow NATO? Like, legitimately have heard of a snow NATO before. Because they're actually, I never knew a snow NATO was a thing until they happened in North Texas. We had a few different snow NATOs in a winter storm, I believe, this past year. I don't know if it was, pretty sure it was this past winter that we had a couple of snow NATOs. It might have been in 2021, actually. Yeah, I think it was 2021. Yeah. Snow NATOs are a thing. They don't typically cause damage, but it is a thing. All right, let's go back over to the live radar feed here. This is the 2Z update, by the way. I think it's fully updated now. Yeah, it is. So the HR model on the latest update, which again, take it with a grain of salt, but it shows storms developing here near Plano and Dallas. And then by 3 o'clock, they kind of all are jumbled together here, all a huge cluster. But again, the variations on these models, the HR specifically, can be kind of tedious. So this is probably the most accurate that we'll get for right now, would probably be this one. But again, NAM3K model is definitely a possibility. The difference, again, if you're just tuning in, the HR model is kind of showing more of the discrete or semi-discrete supercells developing in the early afternoon, and then eventually, possibly this becoming a bit more of a line and organizing itself by 5 to 6 o'clock. Isolated, long-tracked, or even strong tornado is possible. One of the two is definitely possible here in this region, at least with the current circumstances, and then possibly a secondary squall line developing behind that, which would be this here, and that could pose a potential for more damaging winds as well. So and two completely different scenarios. This was the other scenario, which would be kind of skipping out on most of the discrete supercell action or semi-discrete during the early afternoon, and primarily just being comprised of a squall line through the Metroplex and whatnot, which would probably be the worst case scenario at this point for a possibility for some widespread damaging winds. So again, two big different scenarios. The HR model, though, has been pretty much the most consistent overall with the really almost every computer model has been kind of going after this sort of setup here. So see what happens though tomorrow. It's gonna be pretty interesting. Hey Jack, how you doing? Welcome back. All right, I'm gonna stop doing the questions thing, by the way. So if you have questions, ask them in chat. I'm gonna get rid of the Q&A thing because that thing is kind of hard to keep up with chat and everything. We're only 38 subscribers, by the way, from 26,000. If you've not already, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you've not already. I would appreciate it. Again, we'll be doing live coverage here on YouTube tomorrow. Most likely, as long as there's a decent amount of severe weather, I'll be live on both YouTube and Facebook on North Texas Weather Center on Facebook. Obviously, here on YouTube, I'll be doing a dual stream, so we'll be live on both. So keep me updated with the latest on that. Sulphur Springs. That's a good question. Where's Sulphur? I know where Sulphur Springs is, but make sure I actually have the location. I literally used to live in North Texas. I can't remember where Sulphur Springs are. There, it's not even that far. But Sulphur Springs, main concern: damaging winds, a possibility again for tornadoes. I would definitely make sure you're monitoring your weather very closely, because Sulphur Springs back up here, definitely in an area that we could see the potential for a strong tornado threat, and somewhere again in this like large area, which actually extends even further south now. But I would expect any strong, potentially long track tornadoes to possibility would exist kind of in this region, but seems like our greatest threat for tomorrow. Hey Flower, how you doing? Hey Gene, how you doing? Welcome back, by the way. What time will I be going live? I plan on going live sometime around 2 p.m. Central. I do plan on going to my first class, so unless bearing anything dramatically changing, I'm not skipping my first class, which means that I will not be live to the earliest I'll be live is probably 2 p.m. Central. But I might go live slightly earlier. Just depends on... I need to make sure after the stream, I got to set up my computer so it's ready to go live tomorrow. So I don't have any issues with that. On our way to 1 million subscribers. I'm not getting to 1 million subscribers ever. This is crazy if I ever did, but I wouldn't. Tulsa, yeah, actually Oklahoma. I know I have some Oklahoma viewers. This is just one computer model, but it's pretty much probably what we're going to see tomorrow. Overnight tonight, a couple of storms possible over in northwest Oklahoma, but by tomorrow morning into the lunchtime hour, we'll begin to have a few storms developing back across central and northern Oklahoma. Damaging winds, the main concern out of any of these, and then by the afternoon hours, we'll have more of a cluster develop out in front of it. Tornado threat will be higher the further south you go, as we have more buoyancy, and that will obviously create the potential for more of these rotating supercells back down to the southeast, especially a stronger low-level jet in southeast Oklahoma, excuse me. By 6 o'clock or so, 5 to 6 o'clock, you'll have maybe some showers and storms there. But again, damaging winds is my only concern really right now for Tulsa. Can't rely on an isolated brief tornado up there. Can't rely on an isolated, quarter-sized hailstorm, but it seems like a pretty low potential right now back up in Oklahoma. But again, there's a pretty good possibility that we have a significant tornado threat down here as well, southeast of McAllister in southeast Oklahoma. There's actually already a significant tornado threat there if we go over to the graphic. So there is going to be a bit stronger of a low-level jet actually the further north up here. This is kind of like the prime spot, I would say, for the low-level jet to at least be the strongest. Now, there's a lot of ingredients, obviously, but it seems like everything kind of comes together here in this area that's just east of Dallas. So tornado potential in Oklahoma City, it is very low, I would say. It's very low. Definitely on the low end. Funny you mentioned Iowa. Iowa will possibly see some flurries. I believe late Friday or Saturday morning. Oh. There's a possibility that you see some flurries. Maybe a little bit of snow over there in Iowa. It's actually a possibility in Kansas and even the Texas Panhandle tomorrow. Tomorrow evening. Tomorrow afternoon, evening. It's possible. Richard, I actually didn't cover the tornadoes in December the last time it happened, so I don't remember actually even looking at it that much. I remember when the Mayfield tornado happened, but I was not really like doing nationwide stuff. I was really only focused on North Texas weather. So just to be honest with you, like I literally did not pay attention that much to that event. I was actually college was sweeping me during that time. That was during I think finals actually, so that'd be why I never paid attention to that event. But obviously, I watched the aftermath, and yeah, it was that was a crazy event that happened, though. But I do remember it happening. It's just, again, I didn't really cover it. I know, actually, I posted on North Texas Weather Center on Facebook, actually. So. Ethan, I didn't do nationwide weather until this past June of 2022. I've done live streams since like late 2019, but there were only North Texas weather for like 3 years. So I never did nationwide weather up until literally this past summer. I was never really expecting to, but I'm glad I have because I love doing live streams. So, hey Yoshi, how you doing? Yeah, bro, I know it was a pretty crazy event. So, yeah, that was a history event that goes down in history. I'm surprised the Mayfield tornado never got right in EF5. I thought it was pretty close to it, but I think I heard that they're going to actually be redoing the scale. If I'm not mistaken. I plan on it, Bon. I plan on it. Hey, Ninja, how you doing? Welcome. Shreveport. Yeah, Shreveport. I actually haven't really mentioned Shreveport here. Let's go over to Louisiana real quick on the timing. And I didn't even mention this really at the beginning, but this is the Shreveport region. You'll probably see storms sometime during the late evening, so by 9 to 10 o'clock, that's when storms will arrive. Main concern will be damaging winds. Cannot rule on an isolated tornado, though. So near Shreveport, possibility for some isolated damaging winds. Tornado threat not impossible either. And then that'll be pretty much it for you. It would be sometime around between, I would say, about 8 to 12 o'clock tomorrow. Be your best chance for that threat. Yeah, all eyes are going to be on North Texas tomorrow. I know there will be a lot of people live streaming, so I do plan on being live for pretty much the entire event. Probably. It kind of depends on what happens. If there's a lot of severe weather action in North Texas early on, I'll probably be live for the entire event, but I might take a slight break at some point and just do cut off the North Texas weather stream on Facebook and then just do YouTube, but we'll see. Not sure what we're going to do yet tomorrow, but play it by ear. That's saying. What parts of Kansas might get hit? You'll have an overnight threat tonight. So back up here in Kansas, it's going to be primarily overnight tonight, but it's going to be pretty much anywhere east of Colby and Garden City. So here in central Kansas and eastern Kansas, damaging winds the main concern tonight. Isolated large hail, isolated brief tornado threat. It's going to be mainly overnight. Tomorrow afternoon, there might be an isolated storm that's severe, though, in southern and southeast Kansas, though. That'd be the threat for right now, down that direction. Or up that direction, excuse me. And the latest HR model is coming in right now. I'm probably gonna be live up until this comes through. I'm just curious on the tedious stuff on here, but I'll take a look at that and whenever it comes up. New HR model runs coming through. Outdoors, that is gonna be within the next 24 hours. So December 26, 2015. New, I do not. Guys, you don't have to at me for me to answer your question, by the way. I see a lot of people adding me. It's not necessary. I'm just trying to answer whatever questions I can. I'm just kind of looking through chat. A hook in Paradise, Kansas. I'll take a look at it. My phone first, and then I'll pull up on the software if it's actually something concerning. What story are you talking about? Are you talking about the one over in Paradise, Kansas? Not really any hook on it. There is a little bit of rotation, but it's very broad. I'll watch it. We'll see. I don't think there's much on it, though. It's over in Kansas. It gives it some strong low-level rotation, basically. When, the low-level jet does contribute to the rotation of a supercell. And when we have stronger winds aloft, it can rotate supercells much easier. So. With a low-level jet at 50 knots, which, let me see if I can bring up that graphic. I have it somewhere. Somewhere on here. Over here. So, this is the low-level jet, which when we have these winds that are this strong, so this is tomorrow, going to the tomorrow, kind of like late afternoon hours, the low-level jet gets closer to 50 to 60 knots in some areas in northeast Texas. This is why I think this area will have the greatest likelihood of a tornado potential tomorrow, especially due to not just a low-level jet that's being strong, but just the entire setup, the buoyancy, everything kind of comes together in this area, and this will definitely be an area to watch for very closely. I think if there's going to be any long-tracked or strong tornadoes, it will likely happen somewhere in this area that's just east of Dallas. So northeast Texas, I think, will be under the gun for probably the worst of the tornado threat tomorrow. Yeah. Have a great night, bro. Appreciate you tuning in. Somebody asked, do I think that'll get upgraded to a moderate risk? I've kind of answered this a few times, but it's possible that we do get upgraded to a moderate risk. Chances of it, I don't know. I can't really give odds on it by any means, but it's probably going to get upgraded to a, I would say, a moderate risk at some point, as long as confidence is there. And if there were to be a moderate threat of severe weather, it would probably be in this area. Probably not including Waco. It would be a bit further off to the northeast, but... Richard, there isn't one, but the person that was mentioning it, it's over in, like, North Kansas. It's like the one cell that's ongoing right now. Oh, I got you. Oh, actually, I remember that. I watched a documentary on that, Labs. I actually watched a documentary on that. That is interesting. Just a friendly reminder, by the way, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We're only 13 subscribers from 26,000. And again, we'll be doing live coverage tomorrow. So just real quick, while you have a second, make sure to click the bell icon down below and subscribe so you get notified when I go live. There's a little bell icon down below, and make sure you hit that so you get notified when I go live tomorrow. I'll be doing probably a full live coverage on this tomorrow with live cams and all that in place, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on all the severe weather. But this is our current live cam tonight, and again, it's clear skies for the most part in the Metroplex. This is in Lantana, Texas, which is just north of Tarrant County. That's north of Fort Worth, and the only thing that we can see on here is some high clouds and a little bit of breezy conditions right now. There's a little bit of wind out there. Again, this is a calm before the storm in North Texas, so yeah, and we also see a couple of stars, very little white dots there on the screen, which this is picking up, so quite interesting. Right. I'll be prepared if you're in Gainesville, Texas. No need to worry. There's nothing to worry about. It's just making sure that you're prepared. As long as you're prepared, you'll be fine. That's how I go about it. As long as you're prepared, you will be fine. Hail chances in Shreveport are fairly low, Rudy. They're very low. I expect more of a damaging wind threat. If there's any hail, it'd be probably quarter size or less. Richard, you're good. Southwest Iowa. The only threat in Southwest Iowa will be possibility for some flurries Saturday morning. That'd be about it. There's no severe weather expected in Iowa. St. Louis, Missouri. I don't think you're even included in any threat. No, I'm pretty sure St. Louis is fine. Any severe weather that would even happen up there would just be like isolated damaging winds up to 60. So that's my only concern. Again, the tornado threat for tomorrow is primarily going to be focused across this region. Brief tornadoes are possible in that brown shaded region for the most part. And then once we get into this area here, this is where we could see those strong tornadoes and possibly a long track tornado. It's not out of the question. It just depends on how discreet those supercells are. But since they're going to be kind of semi-discreet, I've been mentioning a few times, like, there's a possibility for a long-track tornado. It just depends on if these cells are that discreet. Because what we're seeing with the computer model runs is that these are really clustered together, and there's a lot of showers and storms kind of around these. So if this ends up happening, a long-track tornado is going to be very difficult to happen. And but it's not out of the question. A strong tornado is definitely possible, too. So... it's going to be a very busy and active day, though, for sure. And on my live streams tomorrow, by the way, I'm going to primarily be focusing on this region. I will not be covering a whole lot. I might be covering a little bit on the Red River Valley and whatnot, at least initially within the first few hours, because most of the storm activity will form over North Texas anyways. But I will be live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube, and my Facebook page is specifically North Texas weather. So I'm going to try my best to focus on, like, this region here. But obviously, during the time that we start to see more storms going off this direction to the east, we will be covering storms over in northeast Texas and whatnot, and also Oklahoma and Arkansas, Louisiana, all the states. So we'll be covering everything for the most part, but my main focus will probably be in here if there's any significant severe weather. So, no, snow tornadoes are actually a thing, Steven. It happens when it's much colder and there's actually snow on the ground and whatnot. They're pretty rare. It typically only happens in, like, southern states, and that's the only place I've actually seen them. But snow tornadoes are they're pretty rare, but they don't cause any damage or anything. It's not like an EF5 tornado. They don't really cause damage. It's just kind of a cool thing to see, I would say. Snow tornadoes do exist, though. Louis, not really. I mean, there's similarities to every event, but direct similarities to having like a Mayfield type tornado, it's not impossible to see something like that. But I would say there's not really any direct similarities. They're two completely different areas. The instability, the shear, all this other stuff is all kind of varying from both of the events too. So I can't really make any direct comparisons that would make it seem like that this is going to be something like that. But Decatur, Texas, Decatur won't see much. Decatur's kind of on the edge of, I mean, if you get anything, it would probably just be a damaging wind threat. I don't expect much of a tornado threat, though, for you. So, Decatur should be fine. Alrighty. What do you think the area to the left of Plano? Juke, there's a possibility that you do get some potential for severe weather. The latest model runs have been showing the most prime area for severe weather will probably be, at least initially, kind of in this region here. That'll be kind of our starting point, so near Plano, and then eventually the storms will kind of fire up and start moving a bit further off to the north and east. So that's really the beginning point. So I'd definitely be prepared for some severe weather tomorrow. But again, you might not see any, but definitely be prepared for it. No problem, Sasha. I know somebody was mentioning a PDS tornado watch. I wouldn't rule it out, but it would be if they do issue a PDS tornado watch, it would most likely be east of Interstate 35W. So, and again, it depends on many factors. We'll have to see what happens with the 2 a.m. update, but again, that's in a couple hours. You guys hear the rain, by the way? Just bouncing off my window. Ethan, I started at a very young age covering weather. I mean, I started when I was like 3 years old, and ever since, I just love doing weather. I was always afraid of thunderstorms, you know, up until I was like 10. I outgrew it pretty quickly, but I know a lot of meteorologists that began out in life just being so scared of thunderstorms. So, yeah, I've always been into weather. Hey, Deborah, how you doing? Michelle, how you doing? Welcome back. Wells Angel, welcome back. San Antonio, if you see anything, it'd be primarily just a damaging wind threat initially, but I don't think you'll see too much tomorrow. That's awesome, Sasha. We're only 1 subscriber from 26,000, by the way. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Would appreciate it. Hey, Bryson, how you doing? Well, I live in Texas. I used to. You know, DFW has like some of the best food. Like barbecue food is so good there. I really miss Texas. I want to move back there. It's a great state to live in. Hey, we officially hit 26,000 subscribers. I appreciate it, guys. That's crazy. We officially hit 26,000 subscribers. Didn't even think it was going to happen tonight. I just went live for a little forecast here, but wild. Appreciate it. Hey, have a great night, Jelly. Have a great night. See you again soon. Tornadoes in Austin. Austin has a very low chance of anything like that. I would expect that threat to be, well, probably I mean, it's possible, but I would say more of a damaging wind threat if anything develops down there. Thank you, Michelle, by the way, for becoming a Storm Chaser member. I appreciate that, Michelle. Thank you for becoming a member. Hey, Douglas, how you doing? Thanks, appreciate it. Hey, Richard, did your notification ever pop up, by the way? I don't know if you're still here. You ever pop up? I don't know if it did. Like your notification on screen. I think my thing is broken because that's been showing these alerts for some reason. Oh, I think it did. I don't think it showed the other one. Yeah, it just showed this one. I showed the first one. For some reason, it's not showing the other one. I don't know why. Really do not know why. I think Stream Element... I'm gonna have to get a new bot for this, because Stream Elements does not seem to want to work anymore. Richard, it means 3 months. Since you've been a member for 3 months. Plano, any threat in Plano, again, is going to be primarily just comprised of the possibility for damaging winds and an isolated tornado threat anywhere in that region, like anywhere from, like, within a 50-mile radius of there has that possibility. So just be prepared for all modes of severe weather. That's the best thing that you can do at this point. All right, I am awaiting the next scan here. We'll be live for this next HRR model run. I'm kind of curious on what latest placement is, and then after that we will end the stream. But that'll be probably another 20 or probably another 10 minutes at least. Yeah, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm trying to get to some of them here. Hey, by the way, Susan and Sel for subscribing. I appreciate it. Gordo, I don't recommend taking shelter in a trailer home if you're under a warning. Have a different plan in place, because being in a trailer home or an RV or anything like that can be quite dangerous. I would definitely recommend that you have a different plan, because that is definitely not a good plan to have. Things can get, I mean, even like an EF0 tornado has done a lot of damage to trailer homes. So what was my sub goal for 2023? I don't have a goal. I honestly didn't think I'd ever get to 26,000 subscribers, so I don't know. I just want to help as many people as I can. I really don't care about subscriber count that much, but it's a cool statistic. But I'm glad I'm helping 26,000 people at least with severe weather and whatnot and all the weather stuff. 1 million, yeah, I'm not getting to 1 million subscribers, I don't think, ever. So that is a crazy number. Granted, I've only been doing nationwide weather for like 4 months, I think now, but 4 months I've gained 24,000 subscribers. So it's definitely been a pretty crazy growth, excuse me, to say the least. Never say never. It's never happening. That's all I gotta say. Never gonna happen. Hey, Central, how you doing? I already have my stream scheduled for tomorrow, too. On Facebook, actually. And we already have our stream scheduled for North Texas weather. So, again, my plan tomorrow, if you're, again, wondering when I'll go live tomorrow, I plan on going live at 2 p.m. Central Time. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm planning on it. Could it happen a little bit earlier? It's definitely possible. Could it happen a little bit after that? That's also possible as well. We'll see what the trends are, but I'm planning on going live sometime around, give or take, 2 p.m. Central Time. So again, make sure you subscribe down below, click the bell icon down below as well, and make sure you turn on post notifications so you are notified when I go live. I'll be doing live coverage and all that. So yeah, Chris, again, this is just computer models and stuff. I'm not even on my actual software here. This is just looking at computer models on Pivotal Weather. I mean, this is not by any means the actual radar they'll be using tomorrow. This is just computer models. It's nothing in terms of a radar. We have very professional radars here. Yeah, James, I remember you've been here for a while. You're definitely an OG. Hey, Slick, by the way, how you doing? Welcome back. Ethan, the XFL is my favorite sport. Actually, it actually is. I enjoy the NFL, but the XFL is on a whole nother level. Like the more recent version of it. And they're actually coming back this spring, so I'm pretty excited for it. XFL. It actually is pretty fun to watch, though. Motorsports, nice. Devin, I don't know. I don't even know when you came in. Might be. Probably are. I mean, OG is like North Texas Weather Center days. Like, way back. Temple, are you talking about like threats, Richard? Because threat level wise, probably just damaging winds, isolated tornado threat. That's the main concern there. The latest HR model run, by the way, again, these are very tedious, and we're looking at very small things here, but it shows storm activity potentially near Sherman and whatnot by 2 p.m. tomorrow. So latest model run showing, again, supercells possibly developing here in between the Call and Dent County lines. But again, we're getting very nitpicky and specific, which it's just a computer model, but just something to look at. Latest model run here. No, the XFL is the Extreme Football League. Yes, the XFL is coming to San Antonio, I know. I do plan on going to a few XFL games. So. Nexus, if they do put any moderate threat out, let's go over to this other map. Not that one, this one. This would be where a moderate risk would most likely be. I'm not saying it will be there, but there would most likely be a moderate risk in here. Maybe a bit more condensed like in here. Again, give or take a little bit there, but it would probably be somewhere in there. Which would, if there were to be a moderate threat, it would be in there. So, but again, I'm not the Storm Prediction Center. I don't know what they'll do. We'll have to wait and see. But that seems like the greatest chance of possible. I don't even know if they'll do it at 2 a.m. I doubt they issue it at 2 a.m. They might issue it tomorrow morning, depending on the trends. So we'll see. Does that actually still pop up, James? Is that crazy? Alberto, I'll be prepared for it. Southeast of Dallas, or even in southeastern Dallas, there's definitely a chance for really all modes of severe weather. So definitely be prepared. How many maps do I have? You guys want to see how many tabs I have open right now? Well, full cam here, or full thing here. Look at the top of your screen. That's how many tabs I have open. It doesn't even include. I got 4 more tabs over here to the right. You can't see it over here, but there's like 4 more tabs the other way. You might go crazy if you're ever looking at a if I've had that habit where I don't close tabs, and I think a lot of people do. So some people get anxiety from that and whatnot. That's a lot of tabs. Now, I literally have so many tabs open. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. 33 tabs open. 33. OCD, yeah, there you go. I was trying to figure out the right word for it, but yeah. 33 tabs are open right now, and yeah. And that I literally did an entire forecast at the beginning on all of them. I could have condensed a little bit more, but I wanted to go kind of crazy. This is what I typically do, though. I mean, if you guys remember, I think it was earlier or somewhere last month that I did a little live coverage. It was more of just a forecast discussion on a winter storm. I had at least 25 tabs open. So on like little discussion things like this, I'll typically have a lot of tabs open. Next outlook is in an hour and a half. That's when the next Storm Prediction Center outlook is. My computer will be the slowest thing ever. Actually, I use a laptop, so laptop's handling this pretty well. I have about 35 or 40 more tabs on the other monitor that I'm looking at for the chat open too. So just kind of give you a little perspective of how many tabs I have open. I probably have at least 70 tabs open on this computer right now. Probably not a good thing, but a lot of them are just like, I don't even know. I have a lot of random tabs open on the other monitor. Everything on this one right now is just pivotal weather, so. Thank you, Steven, Sugar, Baby, as well as Linda for subscribing. Appreciate it. Nebraska, low-end chance for severe weather. It's pretty low. Nebraska won't see too much. Isolated damaging winds, if anything. That'd be like southeast Nebraska. I don't know if Nebraska's included in a threat, really. But that'd be like extreme southeast Nebraska if there's anything over there. There possibly could be a little bit of flurry action there as well. There might be a little bit of some snow coming your direction, so not out of the question. What in the world is nader juice? Is that a thing? Some sort of drink? I'll be Trenton, Canton's kind of in that area where we could possibly see some pretty significant severe weather, so definitely make sure you're prepared. Again, just have a plan in place. Be prepared. You don't have to be, fearing this by any means. Just make sure you're prepared for it. No need to worry. Just have a plan in place. Oh, I got you, James. Okay. I've never heard of that before. How many states does it stretch into? I think 7 or 8. If you include every single risk in every single state, includes 1. Let me just kind of make X's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was actually right. 7, I think. Unless it goes further north. Let me double check. Nope, 7. 7 states are included. I wouldn't rule out it gets extended slightly further west, though. So maybe Tennessee gets included into it. But or east, excuse me. I just said west. East. My directions are not there today. Daniela, I don't expect too much down there. Isolated, maybe some damaging winds. Possibly a brief tornado, but that'd be about it down that direction. North of Houston. Houston, same boat there. Damaging winds, the main concern. Isolated, brief tornado, but that's still a pretty low threat even that far south. Main tornado threat will be across, again, northeast Texas tomorrow. That was a good voice crack, too. Yeah, weather. I'm thinking the same thing. I don't think they'll issue it at the 2 a.m. update. It's not impossible for them to do that, but I would expect if there's a moderate threat, it'll be at 8 a.m. That update, because I just don't see enough confidence tonight to change it, but you never know. Because there's still a couple of scenarios that end up happening here, so we'll have to see which scenario actually plays out. Damaging winds is 58 miles per hour or greater, Daniela. I got you, Benny. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was a word. That's not even a word. That's just like some weird phrase. Hey, have a great night, Virginia, by the way. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Hey, DFW, how you doing? What was the biggest storm I've ever covered? Are you talking about like a hurricane / tropical storm, or are you talking about like severe weather? Because I would honestly, it's debatable, but I would either say the severe weather that we saw in southern portions of like southern Alabama and Mississippi was our probably most active severe weather event that I've ever covered. And that was only a few days ago. Hurricane tropical storm wise was definitely Ian, I would say. I did cover, I'm pretty sure Ida. And one other. I can't remember what the other one was, but I'm pretty sure I covered Ida way back. 2020. The lowest pressure I've ever covered on land before. Man, we're getting very specific. Let's just talk about like what the specific number to the actual, you know, decimal places in terms of the instability in the area. I don't really know about land pressure. I mean, I would say probably 980 is a reasonable area, 985, but I don't really ever pay attention to trying to keep track of that on weather events. I mean, obviously I pay attention to the pressure number, but it's not like I bookmark it or anything like that. How bad is Tulsa looking tomorrow? I kind of mentioned this before, but I don't expect much up that direction. Let's see if I can find the tab. But yeah, overall, it's going to be probably just isolated damaging wind threat. Carolina brief tornado, but be probably a low threat anyways. Probably a good amount of rain, though. I mean, rainfall totals out of this event. Let's just go regional here. Let's go to... I can find it. There we go. I have so many tabs open, I don't have rainfall totals on. This is the possibility, though, of terms of rain. We could see upwards of 1 to 3 inches in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas. The entire state should see rain, but there's a lot of streaks here, but again, this is a very specific model. Good reasonable estimate will be 1 to 3 inches, though, across this area. So good amount of rain's coming out of this. Chris, not tonight, just a discussion tonight, but tomorrow I'll be live covering this event for most likely. I keep saying most likely just in case, you know, something changes, but I plan on going live around 2 p.m. Central. That's my plan right now. Danielle, it's definitely possible. Definitely possible with the threats that we have. I don't know what a lot really means. It's kind of a broad term, but I'd say there's probably gonna be some power outages. Definitely possible. Yeah, Texarkana, again, this is an area that I've been mentioning. It's probably going to be our area that we have a potential for a significant tornado somewhere in this area, strong tornado. If there were to be one, it's going to be in this area. And The trend has been it's gonna be somewhere probably like in this street area that I kind of marked out here. So like near Tyler or Texarkana. I've seen a couple of computer models kind of indicate maybe one down this direction, near Canton, for example. But again, giving like a specific location is like playing the lottery, basically. I mean, it's really hard to even predict that. So, I would say though that if there were to be any significant tornado threat, it would be in there. So. This live stream went a lot longer than I was actually planning on it being. By the way, if you have not already, join our Discord server. You can chat with me off the stream and chat with our community. Join our Discord server. Link will be in the chat. Yeah, Drew, it's pretty low-end threat tonight. Up that direction. Isolated, damaging winds, if anything. Possibly a little bit of quarter-sized hail, if a storm even goes into Nebraska tonight. Hey, Tony, how you doing? Thanks, Weather. I appreciate it. Any threat for Kansas? Kansas will not have much of a threat unless you're in southeast Kansas. Isolated damaging winds, very low chance for a tornado. Again, I expect really any significant threats will likely be down here in this region. This is more of like damaging winds is more of a threat beyond this area, in this dashed area. So where X is, and then over here in Y, which we're not really doing math here, but this would be the area that has the more significant potential for severe weather. So there's a possibility, though, that we see some severe weather up here. It's just going to be, I would say, probably on the lower end overall. Good to hear, Tony. Good to hear. Have a great night, Ethan. Appreciate you tuning in. Live stream is planning on starting at 2 p.m. Central. Again, that's to be determined still. I will be posting a scheduled live stream tomorrow morning. So you will see that sometime around, I would say 10 a.m. Eastern or 9 p.m. Central. You'll see a scheduled live stream on YouTube, and it will give you a time. That time is also to be determined, but I would expect my live stream to start sometime around then. But 2 p.m. Central is probably realistic right now. It could go earlier, it could go later. Just depends on what happens. Hey, Van, how you doing? What scenario do I think is the most likely tomorrow? Most likely is going to be the HRR model that I've been kind of showing. Over somewhere over the rainbow. Let's see where it is. Over here. This is probably the most likely scenario. But the NAM3K model has been showing just a squall line with a couple of isolated cells out in front of it. Both scenarios are possible, but I would say that this one is a bit more realistic at this point. I would expect a secondary squall line, though, to develop maybe after 6 or 7 o'clock, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But again, we still got a few hours. We still got 12 hours, I think-ish. Yeah, about 12 hours until this event even begins. 12, 13 hours, so still a decent amount of time. So things might change in the next 12 hours. Hey, Eli, how you doing? I'll be prepared if you're in that 5%, but it's not too concerning. But definitely have a plan in place. Hey, Rainbow, how you doing? That's crazy, Marie. Was that back in 2017? I don't know if if my memory's right. I think there was a Canton tornado back in 2017. I don't know if it was an EF4, but I remember a tornado back in 2017. I think it was. It was. And look at my knowledge. For some reason, I knew that, and I didn't even live in Texas at that time, but pretty remarkable. April 29th, 2017. I was actually going to say late April, so my memory is on point with that one. It's crazy. Yeah, I remember that. I watched the live coverage like 2 years after that happened because I was kind of interested. So back in like 2019, I think it was, I watched the live coverage like literally 2 years later, which is kind of weird, but it was an interesting system. It was an interesting system that created that tornado threat. There were several tornadoes that day too. Jose, main concern that far south is going to be damaging winds. Can't rule out a brief tornado threat. Hey, you too, Benny. I don't know if you're in the area, but have a great night. Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, Chocolate, you're correct. Yeah, I watched NBC. That's actually what I watched, so. Alrighty, any last second questions? Feel free to let me know in the chat. I was planning on getting off the stream a little bit earlier, but this is the latest HRR model run, by the way, if you're curious. This is a 3 to 4 o'clock hour, so showing those supercells back over in northeast Texas near Tyler and whatnot. And unfortunately, the radar sites here are not very good. We have a radar site here. We have a radar site over here. So we got a lot of dead space in between. Hopefully we get some good views on these storms with these radar sites. Hopefully neither of them go down either. But yeah, we got 2 radar sites, one here and one here. And yeah, we're going to have some dead space in the middle here, which is not good. Fortunately, we do not have a radar site in between here. I know there's supposed to be a radar site getting built like up here somewhere, but that's not going to solve the problem over here. I don't know if they're putting one in over here, but this is a common event. Obviously, an enhanced risk, a moderate risk, whatever. Those aren't common, but this is something that typically happens once a year during October, November, or early December in the Southern Plains. We had a similar situation last year. The only difference with last year's event, which was a bit further up here to the north, it was more of an Oklahoma event, I'm pretty sure, last year. And I think it was in late October. So this is not uncommon. Having an enhanced risk is obviously not common, but I'm just saying in general, like a severe weather event like this does typically happen. So, David, it's gonna vary. Again, it depends on cloud cover. The computer models are indicating. Let me see where I can find that here. I think it was like 2,000-ish. There's gonna be like kind of our range of instability in terms of the CAPE values. This is a significant tornado parameter. Let me go over to the mixed CAPE layer here. So yeah, right around 1 to 2,000, maybe 2,500, possibly in the peak. Overall, I would say that with these values being given here, they might vary, because if we have more sunshine tomorrow than what's being forecasted, if we have less clouds out there, we could see this much higher. But if we have less cloud cover, or have more cloud cover, these values could even be a bit lower. So, but currently it's supposed to be mostly cloudy to cloudy skies tomorrow morning. Let me see if I can pull up that graphic real quick on here. This is the graphic. Let's just refresh this real quick. Yeah, clouds are supposed to build in overnight tonight. Yeah, weather. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, CAPE values do not really matter that much, but it's definitely, it has to be noted, because we have a lot more heat and instability out there. It can ramp up severe weather even more than what it currently is. That's why I'm kind of pointing it out. This is the cloud cover overnight tonight. So yeah, it's actually showing, this isn't good signs, but it's showing more breaks in the clouds here tomorrow morning, which would not be good. But still fairly consistent, but it shows a little bit more breaks in the clouds tomorrow morning, which might create a bit more, actually look at the Lantana cam right now. We're actually beginning to see some of those clouds now out there, some of the low-level clouds. It's starting to get a bit more mostly cloudy. We were looking at this like 20 minutes ago, and it was clear skies. This is currently a live cam in Lantana, which is in DFW. So there are actually clouds actually building in now, moving out of the south, it looks like, to the north. So, Devin, I do not have that game, and apparently it's a game, but I've never played that. I've never even heard of it. Yeah, low-level jets can be between 50 to 60 knots, so. And live cam out of Lantana. Looks pretty nice out there, by the way. Breezy conditions. Clouds are now beginning to build in, so. Oh yeah, we've had EF5 tornadoes before that have happened, like in Moore, I'm pretty sure. There was an EF5 tornado one year, and or at least an EF4. And there was no instability at all in terms of the CAPE values. There was 0. And when we look at the, this is kind of a little lesson for those that are curious here. When we look at a graph like this, this is the instability. Oops, wrong thing. See if I can kind of stretch this out a little bit. So the instability is actually measured, the CAPE value. Let me see if I can get like a good comparison here. The instability is actually measured in like this area. It's kind of this like sliver. This dashed line is almost. This is where our instability is. This is what the value comes from. It's like this instability layer here with the temperatures right here. So it kind of goes along. I can't remember the actual definition of what this line is. Somebody couldn't tell me if they want to. I think it's like the L. I don't think it's the level of free convection. I can't remember. There's so many different things in sounding, so I don't remember the actual term for this, but sounding. I don't even know. But yeah, does anybody know that elevated mix layer? No, I don't think it's that. There's actually it's like where the parcel lifts up, and it's something to do with that. Yeah, it's an air parcel, but I can't remember the actual term for this. But this line basically is where our instability is. So this entire layer, from this dashed line back through the temperature here, this is what our instability is actually measured from, is in here. from this dash line and back in. It's very small. It's a very small sliver, but it's got a little interesting thing there. It's like the LCL, LFC, level of free convection, maybe? No, it's not that. There's so many different terms. I have to study that again. That was from last year, but... Jack, you might be right. Moist adiabatic lapse rate. That might be it. Right. Environmental, maybe? Wait. I really want to know here. Yeah, but I'll have to figure it out. But yeah, that's... Just can't remember what the actual term is for it, but yeah. There's some way to solve it, but it's interesting. We didn't really spend that much time... Oh, I'm on the wrong screen here. We didn't really spend much time, though, on the actual soundings, which was kind of weird. Again, it was an aviation weather class that I learned all the sounding stuff in, which I learned a lot of it before that, but during that class, we didn't really spend much time on soundings, which was kind of unfortunate. I think I do a lot more in an upcoming class, but... Eli, my plan is to stream again tomorrow. Danielle, you might be right. MLAR sounds familiar. Moist adiabatic lapse rate. It might be that. Traveler, no, I do not. I don't get any college credits for this. No, this is not college credit by any means. I wish it was, but I don't. I probably could ask for it, but I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if they really care. I doubt they've ever had somebody ask them, or I doubt that the college has ever had somebody ask them, hey, can I get college credit for doing this? For doing live streams on weather? I don't think they would give you credit for that, but you never know. I'm gonna have to ask, but it doesn't hurt to ask. It'd be pretty cool though if I could. They do this literally all the time. This is like kind of quote unquote almost my job right now to do, to help obviously pay off for college. College is so expensive, so this does help out a lot doing that. How you doing, Andrea? Did it. Soundings are so confusing. Yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with the sounding, there are so many different things on this, and I'm just going to show you one more time. There's so many different things. Up here's a hodograph. We got a few other things. Possible hazard type, which is something that we look at a little bit. You got some of the sounding analogs, the potential for a different type of tornado down there, like EF1, EF0, whatever it might be. A bunch of little things down here in the bottom left. This is a lot of different little stuff. We have the LI, the lifted index. We have the LFC, the equilibrium level, which this is just like the cloud height of where clouds kind of stop forming, so it's up there. Once we have temperatures go back up here like this is where